back to the school podcast. My name is Frank, as most of you probably know. Our other co-host Dustin, who is the founder and brainchild behind this whole thing we got going on
Oh,
here.
really?
I don't know about all that.
Thanks for making me insecure, Frank.
Yeah,
Right off the bat.
exactly. It's good to have you. Yeah, Dustin hasn't been on for a couple weeks, and we have Alicia here, who we've just been
Hi.
getting to know the past 10 minutes or so, and we're happy to have her. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Um, so do you deal with people in your work? We, I'll just
Yes.
for our
Yeah.
listeners, I'll just start off. We're talking about her work. She works at the VA hospital in the neurology
Right.
arena, right?
Yeah.
Um, so you're working with people with traumatic brain injuries and like
A
what?
lot of a lot of withdrawal seizures and
Oh, okay.
seizures,
Oh, wow.
epilepsy,
Okay.
things like that.
So
Stroke.
like substance abuse too in
Yeah.
that? Okay. Wow. I had a guy who I worked with. He on the verge of being homeless, in and out. Um, struggled with bipolar, some mental health stuff, but he had a traumatic brain injury when he was young, you know,
Yeah.
and it was he was the most coolest guy, but I it affected how like it helped him become a substance abuser. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Mhm.
So you see a lot of stuff like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. It's just self medication.
right?
I feel like that's common in like the armed forces, right? Where people get,
Yeah.
PTSD or
Mhm.
anxiety or depression, obviously what that kind of stress and environment,
Right.
leads to, and people
Right.
cope with it in different ways. But
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
So
sure that that's it.
So I want to talk a little bit. So I've heard have an awesome story, and I wanted to talk a little, and you can share whatever you would like. But so you obviously have been a substance abuser, and you said you had
Yeah.
16, 17 years clean,
17 years. Yeah.
17 years clean. That's congratulations.
Thank you.
it's much longer than anyone else we
Yeah,
have in this room.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot. So at what age was that? Did you get sober? You're
2003.
two,
So I
2000.
was in my 30s.
Yeah. Did you end up going to treatment?
Yeah, I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
What kind of treatment?
I went to an intensive outpatient for
Oh,
mothers and children
oh wow.
in Salt Lake.
Oh, nice.
But I lived in a homeless shelter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So can you talk a little bit about that? What was that experience like? So did you have a child?
Hmm.
So you had a child, and so the child lived with you in the homeless shelter
Yeah.
while you were getting treatment?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what got you there?
Oh, wow.
I know. I
What
know.
got me there?
I know. I'm coming right.
What's a
It,
snapshot of what
this
life looked like
yeah.
right before you got
This
sober?
is
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
the snapshot of that was I used the entire time I was pregnant.
Oh, okay.
And
Meth.
I used meth the whole time I was pregnant. And then I I had her and I was down south. So I had moved away from everyone in Salt Lake and I was down south and was with her dad's family. And I ended up pregnant again and but I was using, I was drinking, I was smoking pot. We had started using again. And I came to Salt Lake to get an abortion. And which no, I'm not proud of and but anyways, I made the best decision I could make in
Right.
the mindset that I was in.
Right.
So anyways, I came to Salt Lake and I was left here with my baby in a parking lot by my sister-in-law.
Right.
And of all places, it was West Valley Police Department parking lot.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
And so yeah, so she like booted me out of the car and I ended up calling and I was so high and I ended up calling my dope dealer and it took her, I don't know, God, I think I was there for hours waiting in that parking lot for her to come and get me. And I was so high and I knew I wanted to go to a hotel, but I couldn't think of a hotel. I was just
Right.
like, and neither could she. Like both of us were like, a hotel? Where is a hotel? What?
Right.
What? We were both so high and it was ridiculous. And so finally I just said, just take me to my sister's house. because I couldn't think of anywhere else in Salt
Right.
Lake, because I hadn't been in Salt Lake for a while, and I
Right.
hadn't been around my family for years. And so I just thought, I'm just going to show up. And she wasn't there. I fell asleep on her porch, ended up sleeping. I got into her
So you're
garage.
pregnant at this
I,
point.
I was pregnant at this point.
Okay.
And you
you,
had a
And
did you
baby.
have your
and I
baby
had
with
a
you?
baby,
You
yeah.
had the baby with
And
you.
I
How
had
old
the
was the
baby with me.
baby?
She was 6
Oh
months.
wow.
And so, and in my mind, I'm like, I gotta get her where I gotta have to have water. That's why I wanted a hotel, is so that I
Right.
could take care of her and clean her up. And, anyways, I got into my sister's garage. They weren't home. I get up the next morning when the sun comes up, and I walked to a business, used a phone, called the dope dealer. She's like, call me back in like 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, I'm not at a place I can hang out, can you just come back and get me? No
Right.
one's here. And just take me to a hotel. And so anyways, I went back. I grabbed the rest of my stuff that I had left in the garage, the diaper bag and everything else. I
Right.
didn't have a stroller, so I'm carrying a car seat and a couple bags, and I'm sure I look like a fucking mess.
Right.
Anyways, but I I end up starting to walk, and a man, I'll never forget, because a man picked me up, and he said, "You really look like you could use some help."
Wow.
And so I jumped in this van with this guy, and I said, "Just take me to State Street. Take me to. I just want to go to the nearest hotel." That's, I had money, and so he takes me, and he says, "Well, I'm really thinking, what about going to the Y? What about YWCA? Maybe they could help you." So I was like, "Okay, let's go," and I went, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to stay there, because I had stayed within that year. I had stayed there for the
Right.
amount of time that I could stay there.
Right.
So they sent me to, here in Utah, they have Welfare Square. I don't know if you
Right.
guys know
Right.
it like that, but they sent me over there to the church, and the church put me up in
Wh- So like
Crack Hotel,
what church? The
the
LDS church.
LDS
Okay.
church.
Welfare Square. Where is that? Right there
That's
by
downtown.
right by Temple Square, kind of.
It's like Ninth South,
Oh, okay.
like Third West or
Okay.
something like that. Anyways, but it's where the DI gets all of theirs.
Right.
They have food, and they have a DI, and it's
Right.
just a huge. Anyways, so they put me up in the Crack Hotel, and which was good, and they gave me some food and everything. And so here I am, still thinking, okay, I had went to my first appointment for my abortion, and I had to get back there with the next day to
Right.
have the procedure. And so I called my stepsister, and told her where I was and the situation, and she said, "Okay, I'll be there to get you in the morning." And so she came and got me, took Kimmy, and I had the abortion, and then I went back and stayed at this hotel. And my sister said, "Well, here's some numbers I need you to call." And one was to the homeless shelter for
Right.
women and children. And so I called them, and they got me in right away after they knew what I was going through. But I still had a couple of days till I could get in there, because I had to go get tests done. I had to get into a treatment center
Right.
and do all this, all of this stuff before I could get in there. So next door to me was people that I had used with in the past, and gamers and everything
Right.
that I'd been around. So I locked myself in the hotel room and didn't go outside. And then went and checked myself into the homeless shelter.
What?
That was in 2003.
And so so how was it with your child? Like the reason I asked this is I was using pretty heavily when my kids were young too,
Mhm.
and I just how was it with your having a little baby and being that active in your addiction? Like what?
It was normal to me.
Yeah. I mean,
It was just normal. You
It
just
just
took
becomes
care. You
normalized,
just,
so
yeah.
you don't think
You
about it
just,
as
you
much.
feed your kid, and you
yeah.
change their diapers, and you make sure that they're taken care of. And then you
Right.
go in the other room and get high and
Right.
This
think
guy,
it's not bothering them or anything
Right.
else. But I have two older children.
Right.
So I have a 33 and one that would have been 31.
Right.
And so I just gave them to their dad. when I
How old
really
were they at this time when you gave them to your dad?
to their dad.
Yeah.
They were 12 and 10.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't start using until I was in my 20s. I
Right.
mean, I had like in high school, I used everything.
Yeah.
I did acid and smoked pot and drank and
Right.
didn't go to school. And I dropped out of school when I was in 10th grade
Right.
and then went back and got my GED and went to business college
Oh, nice.
and then went.
How how did you get into the meth?
So I had
Like,
because I was drinking and hanging out and going to the bar and
okay,
stuff.
and then it just came.
I was hanging out with my sister and one of my sister's friends. We were at the bar and she said, "Oh, hey, let's get out of here, blah blah blah." And I was like, "All right, let's go." And then we ended up somewhere else at another friend's house and they had meth and I was like, "All right,
Did
hey,
you
let's
start
do
out
it."
just snorting it, or
Mhm.
yeah,
I just started out snorting it and it was like and it was an every other weekend thing.
yeah, kind
Now
of like just doing coke, kind of on the
yeah, it
weekends or
was just,
something. But it
and I
was
didn't
meth.
have the kids, and so
Right.
it was like when I would go to the bar.
Yeah.
We'd do some meth. We'd go to the bar. We'd hang out. We'd either come back to my house or go to
Right.
somebody else's house and party the
I
rest
feel
of
like
the
that's
night away.
common in a lot of
Yeah.
social circles, and
Yeah.
especially if people call it things like not meth, like, oh, it's just some speed or
Yeah,
some crank.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, yeah, why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah,
Let's do some
it's just some
crank. Yeah.
coke. It's just like some
Yeah.
coke. It's just
We're gonna do speed, and it's like, oh yeah, but it's not like meth,
right,
you know?
right,
yeah,
right. So and then so I was dibble dabbling with it, and everything else. Well, my mom passed away, and
How old
I
were you when that
I
happened?
was 26.
Yeah.
So I was 26 when my mom passed away, and and then I'd had a really good job, and anyways, some stuff happened, and the guy just basically said, "I don't like you, and I don't want to work with you, and
right,
you're out." And personally, I don't think it had anything to do with my drug use because I was only using on the weekends, and I
Right.
wasn't really using during the week. I'd
Right.
drink, we'd go out and drink, but I wasn't. I don't feel like that was because of my drug use that I lost the job. He was just a jackass,
yeah,
but what that did in turn was just gave me all the time in the world. And
yeah,
now back to when my mom um it's her date the date this happened was October 30th.
right,
So I have a lot of anniversaries in October, so October
Right.
is a really hard month
Right.
for me.
right,
So October 30th they pronounced my mom brain dead.
right,
And so we put her in my dad, for whatever reason, someone talked him into saying that she's in a coma and she's going to wake up. Let's put her in this home.
right,
So she went into a long-term care facility, but she was never going to come out of it.
Right.
But he just kept her alive until March. So I was trying to take care of me. I was trying to take care of my mom. I was trying to take care of my dad and their farm and everything that they
Right.
had going on. And I just, so then I just started increasing my meth use
to try to be more
to
productive.
be more productive.
Yeah.
I can do more, I can get my stuff done, when I
Yeah.
should be sleeping, and I can,
Yeah.
and then I lost my job. So then I didn't have anything to keep me stable.
Yeah, or like tethered to reality. Really.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I would just go and sit with my mom, who I knew was this was as good as it was ever going to get.
Right.
I feel like it's like you use meth to, get through it, but also
Mhm.
on an emotional level to deal with all
Yeah,
this. It's like
I didn't have any emotions. I
Yeah.
really didn't. I mean, that or they were all over the place. I
Exactly,
mean, I
yeah.
was either psycho, freaking out, crying, or I had no emotions whatsoever.
it's a lot to
You
deal
know,
with. Yeah.
so-
It is a lot to deal with.
At
So-
any age, like,
yeah.
someone close to you dying, whether it's a parent or a sibling, spouse or friend, it's like, it doesn't make it easier if you're 26 as opposed to like 17. It's
Yeah.
like, still you have to deal with it
Yeah.
and go through it and
Yeah.
learn how to cope with that.
Mhm.
And, so many of us are unable to without substances.
Right. And then I had my, so I had Kayla and Tani, and I was just, trying to, okay, I'm going to go back to school. That's what I'll do. I can do something with my life. I'll just go back to school. Well, I couldn't go to school.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare, and that didn't work out so well. And then my daughters, I wasn't home, and their dad and his new girlfriend or wife or whatever she was, they and it just took over with the kids. And my daughter was like, I want to go live with my dad. And I was like, okay, well, if you want to go live with your dad, then go now. Because they were building a house and they were going to have their own rooms and they were going to have all this stuff. And I was like, go now. Why wait? and in my mind I kept thinking, well, he's not going to be able to do this, and he's just going to give them back, and so I'll let them go. And I wasn't thinking about my drug use at that time, and because it was normal.
Right.
It was I can do this, I can handle all of this. And so anyways, they both moved, and I ended up moving to a smaller apartment. But at that time I had started meeting new people. I was very my drug circle was very small.
Right.
And it was my drug use was I can't think of the word for it, controlled.
Right.
If they thought I needed to sleep, they wouldn't give me drugs. If they thought that I wasn't eating, they wouldn't give me drugs
Right.
until I got back to where I needed to be.
Right.
A normalized.
Right.
Well, but then I started meeting new people, and those people would come over to my house, and so then they would introduce me to other people, and so then I had different circles, and
Nice.
so then I could just get drugs whenever I wanted.
Yeah.
And so then I was the person that everyone else would come to if they needed something, because I had met all these other people in different circles.
Oh, wow.
So it just started getting really out of control, and I had like my house was the house on Vine Street,
Right.
and everyone knew that's where you would go to hang out and do drugs and everything else. Now, also, my mom worked in the police department, South Salt Lake Police Department, for 20 years, and my dad was a federal agent. So
It's an interesting twist to it.
Yeah.
yeah. So I grew up in a home full of law enforcement,
Right.
and I knew what not to do and what to do.
Right.
So it was, and they just stayed away, because it was that kind of, I think they didn't want to be involved, because they didn't want to. I don't know. Maybe I can't speak for them. I don't know, but nobody came to save me.
Right.
Let's just say that. And so,
Do you think you were like hiding it from them for a while, or they
oh,
knew?
for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, I thought I was hiding it. I'm
Right.
pretty sure I was hiding it. I probably was not, but
Right.
of course I thought I was hiding
Yeah, we all do.
it.
No one knows I'm high
That's
right
why-
now.
anyways, so yeah, so that's how I was brought up. So I
Wow.
knew the ins and outs of what, and I knew my house was getting out of control, and then I ended up getting kicked out of that apartment.
So when you started to get so you
At that point,
let's
I wasn't even trying to get
yeah
sober.
this time so fast forward how many years to the homeless shelter when you started getting sober?
Oh my gosh, that was probably 4 or 5 years.
So 4 or 5 years of that type of
that
life.
type of life.
And then
yeah.
and then so when did you finally say, dude, it's when did you hit that bottom? Is it
Well, so I'd hit a bottom when I met Kimmy's dad. This is a funny story.
Right.
I don't know if I should even say it. Anyways, but
Go ahead.
so I met Kimmy's dad. I I was on the side of the freeway, and getting pulled over in a stolen vehicle, and the person I was with lied about their name, so the cops knew, and they went after him. So they weren't concerned about me and this other person, as I was on my way to buy another stolen vehicle. Anyways, I'm standing on the side of the freeway, and I've got tiny shorts on,
Right.
and a teeny tiny tank top,
Right.
and my shorts are just full of drugs.
Jeez.
Full. Because I was gonna go and sell drugs while I was picking up this car.
Right.
And anyways, it was insane. So the cop gets in the car, grabs my purse, and there's a scale in my purse.
Right.
And the cop is like, well, do you know what we use these for? And I'm like, I don't know what you use it for, but I use it to measure out essential oils. And he's like, oh, okay. And he sticks it back in my purse, hands me my purse, and says, you two need to get out of here. And so I'm just like scared to move, because I'm afraid that if I move the wrong way, everything is going to fall out of my shorts. And so anyways, we went ahead and started going, because they were so focused on this guy
Right.
that had lied to them about who he was, and then they figured out who he was, so they didn't care about us.
That's
You know,
serious. If
getting
you
out of
lie
here.
to the cops about your identity, it's like immediately a felony.
Yeah. So anyways, well, he went to jail, and I was talking to him while he was in jail, and that's where I met Kimmy's dad. He was in jail,
Right.
and he started calling me on the phone.
Right.
And we started this connection, and he's like, I just want to be sober and I just want to have this good life and, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, he got me sober.
Oh, wow.
While we were talking on the phone, I'm like, yeah, that's really, I want to live like that too. And I want to have a good life.
So he's in jail and
He's
he
in
motivated
jail,
you.
and he motivated me to get sober, right?
Wow.
So I moved from Salt Lake so that he was in Utah. He got transferred to Utah County Jail. I moved to Utah County, and so I could be closer to meet him. I got a really good job. I was like an office manager, and I was making really good money and doing really good. I had everything ready for him to come home.
Right.
And now, mind you, I got married him while he was in jail.
Right.
So I just kept thinking to myself, if this is meant to be, it's going to happen.
Right.
If God wants this to happen,
Right.
he's going to make this happen,
Right.
So everything worked out, and we went to the courthouse at different times, but we had to do it on the same day. And then I went and we got married in Utah County Jail.
Oh man.
And I just
awesome.
thought, oh, he saved my life.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just this. We're gonna have this great life, and I've got everything ready for him to come home. And he's home for a week and starts using.
He started. So did you start using too?
And so then I tried not to, but I couldn't keep it together, and then I got pregnant with Kimmy.
Right.
And so then we were off and running. And we lived like we were homeless, and we had 2 cars in a home in Utah County, but we would run the streets in Salt Lake and just couch surf until we needed to rest, and then we would go home. So no one knew where we lived, and we just lived like crazy. And he was in a gang, and
Wow. So
we just were running wild.
During that time when he decided to go back out, because he obviously found, I see this a lot with people that go to jail. They get sober in jail, and they're like,
they
dude,
find God.
They find God and they're
Right.
happy. They read all these books.
Yeah.
When he chose to go back out, and was it hard on, was he what was he like? Did he want to try to, was he trying, were you guys trying to get sober after you went back out?
Well, I had 18 months. He did an 18-month stint.
Right.
Whatever. And so I was sober 18 months.
Right.
And I was like back on track. I was ready to live a clean and sober life, and I knew how, because I had for, not only that 18 months, but up till I was 26, I had my other girls and lived a normal sober life or whatever. But I don't think he ever really intended on getting sober.
Oh.
I think it just, maybe while he was in jail, but I think it was too much.
Right.
I think it's just, it was too much for him when he got out of jail.
Wow.
And it is overwhelming. It's overwhelming when you're not sober to go to a store and try to buy something, and, I mean, it's like, how many cough medicines do we need to have? How many ibuprofens, and what shampoo, and what, soap,
so
and oh my God, it's overwhelming when you're normal.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he had lived a life of, he was in a gang, and he, had grown up in that lifestyle. And so
when you say you're couch surfing and meth, I got one of a good friend. I've worked with a lot of people, and especially in the past couple of years with meth. And what happens? The psychosis, right, you go, and then you find a place to crash, and then you come out of it, and then it's time to go up again. And when you're up like that, you hate to come, like you want to just stay there, and you don't until you're forced to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just stay. Well, for one, you're in bad places, and like, I didn't know where the hell I was. It's like, oh, we just went to sell dope to someone at this house. And so you sit there and you get high with them for a little bit, and then it's a couple days later, and you're like, you've been awake, and you're
and working on like little projects, and like,
I didn't do any of that, but anyways, we would just, basically people would come to the house, and we would just sell them dope, wherever we were at, because that's what we did. And
so there's a whole nother world out there that exists.
A whole nother world. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And a lot of times it gets mixed with those drugs. Like, when I was off doing heroin, like I'm with a lot of people doing meth,
Right.
obviously, but then they're somewhat separate, like at the same time.
It's funny
Because I'd be like at a
they-
junkie house and everyone's like this, and some tweaker would come over. I'd be like, oh, I hate tweakers, but I do meth all the time too. But I'm not a tweaker. Like I'm a junkie. Like right. And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
I'd find myself with a bunch of tweakers trying to make money because I'm like, I'll drive them around to different targets while they steal stuff, and then I'll get money so I can buy heroin, right?
Yeah.
But I hate being with tweakers, but I have to so I can get money.
Yep, yep.
Because they're productive.
Exactly.
Wild.
Exactly. Oh my God. Yeah. That's exactly how it was. You know, I didn't want to be around heroin. You just,
Exactly.
you guys, all you guys want to do is fucking sleep. We got shit.
It's
We
boring.
got shit to do.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Let's go. Get up.
Uh,
Let's go. We got shit to do.
It's
We don't have
funny.
time for this sleeping shit. Let's
Exactly.
go. You need some meth?
Right. Exactly. Let's go.
Let's go. We got
That
we
is
got
crazy,
shit to do.
man. I you know, it's, and I feel bad because I don't know. This is just what I've seen, and you tell me, but it's so hard to get the meth addict sober because it's so linked to productivity in a way.
Mhm.
Like you got these guys who can work these construction jobs and they can go make some cash
Yeah.
and they're good.
Yeah.
They're good at that job.
We're good at everything that we do. I mean, it's
And then-
sad. We just, you know,
So
we
it's
get
hard
lost.
to quit
it
because
really is.
it's not like heroin where you wouldn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
Like meth, it's like,
and it doesn't hurt to come off of meth. You just need to sleep and eat.
Exactly.
Sleep and eat, and you're not in pain, and you just need to go find you some more shit so that you can do
be,
more,
be productive.
do more stupid shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I need more meth so I can go make more bad decisions.
Exactly.
But it seems like it's so hard for them to get off of it because
Yeah, it's a
of that
lifestyle.
productivity.
It's the lifestyle. You become addicted to the lifestyle. I don't know.
When you say that, like, what do you mean? Like just the
the robbing and mobbing and stealing and running
yeah.
and gunning and always having to have something going on. It doesn't have to be productive at all. As a
Right.
matter of fact, it never is actually productive. It's just you're doing something and
yeah, like
you're
the
just
show-
constantly and you just want to be going all the time and you don't have time to just sit still, and then you don't sitting still you might have to think about stuff.
So I was
You know,
I struggled with it.
I wouldn't want to. I didn't want to think about what I had done,
Yeah.
what I was doing, where I was, who I was with, because that was not how I was brought up. You know, that
Yeah.
was not at all the life that I wanted. But nobody in my family was. They didn't want anything to do with me. They weren't. I mean, I don't know, but they weren't. Didn't seem to me that they were trying to even help me. So I felt like I was completely by myself.
Do you think they were do you think they were scared of you? So that's cuz I like when I'm around some a particular friend who's been struggling with meth, it's scary.
Well, you bring that up. And so I had ended up here in Ogden,
Right.
and I ended up in jail. That's
Right.
the only time I ever went to jail was when I was here in Ogden. Was with someone stupid, and we got caught up in a raid, and I went to jail.
Right.
And all I wanted to do was get back to Salt Lake because I was here for a couple weeks and didn't know anybody and didn't know anything about Ogden, and the people that I had met, I was scared to death of,
Right.
and was afraid that I wasn't even going to ever get out of here.
Wow.
But I went back to Salt Lake, and at that time, my grandma was here. She lived here, and I went to her house. And for whoever she was talking to, which it might have been my sister saying, you know, but there was that stigma that I'm a meth monster
Yeah.
and I'm going to kill them, and I'm going to,
Yeah.
and all I wanted to do was just get sober and get help and sleep and eat and get back on track. And she let me spend the night. And then, you know, so in my mind, I was like, okay, good. I'm home. You know, I can get back on my feet, and my grandma's going to help me, and, you know, I'm going to be okay.
Right.
I woke up the next day and she's like, okay, you got to go. And so I had a friend who came and picked me up and paid for me a hotel room because I didn't have anywhere to go. And so he, you know, and this is a friend from growing up
Right.
that was sober, that was a friend of the family. And he took me to a hotel and he put me up, and who else am I going to call? Where else am I going to go? There's no one. I've now lost my only resource that I had, who I
Wow.
thought loved me and cared about me, was my grandma, and she didn't want anything to do with me. So I just dove right back into meth.
There's
Yeah.
no like right way to know how to help like the
Right.
substance
Oh,
abuser, right?
absolutely not.
I mean, I would
Absolutely
say there's
not.
maybe wrong ways, I guess, but like there's no right. Like there's
Yeah.
some families like will be there always and
Mhm.
constantly keep
Mhm.
helping them and giving them money and a
Enable,
place to
enable,
stay.
enable.
And it's
Yeah.
like hard to say that's wrong, or
Mhm.
it's like others will cut them off completely. And it's like hard to say
Yeah.
that's, it's like everyone deals with it differently,
Yeah.
right?
But exactly, but being the addict, it's like nobody cares, nobody
Yeah.
loves me, nobody wants anything to do with me, and so what am I going to do? How am I going to get myself out of this situation? So I
Right.
just kept digging deeper into, meth and the people that surround that.
Jeez.
So then again, meeting my husband and getting sober, thinking,
Right.
okay, God wants this. He's letting it happen. And then now bam, then I'm right back in it.
And
And
so you
that's
don't
how
keep in
I ended
contact
up.
with him today, like obviously you have a child together.
We do
right?
have a child together. He's in a meth psychosis living on the streets in Salt Lake.
Oh, really? I'm sorry. to
I
hear that.
have pictures. He's
Really?
one of the people that he has a shopping cart and lives. I don't even I last I heard, I actually heard yesterday where he's staying, but he's on the streets.
I feel like at a certain point with meth, there's like a point of no return.
There, yeah, he's at
Yeah.
that point. He's it's really sad. I mean, and they were never a part. That family, once they left me in that parking lot, they were never a part of my daughter's life
Right.
until the last 5 years, 6 years.
You're talking about like his parents and stuff.
His
Okay.
family.
Okay.
His family was never a part of, and my family really never. We've never really gotten back. I don't know. There's lots that has happened, and we're family, but we're
Right.
not close like a lot
Right.
of families are.
Right.
I want to bring up like when you were telling at the very end, right before you got sober, you on meth, like through your pregnancy, you had a little baby, and it's like a lot of people might hear that and be like, "Oh my God, like what a like
Horrible
terrible
person.
situation or
I'm a
horrible
horrible
mom
person."
or whatever." But I don't
Yeah.
look at it like that, because it's like this disease is so powerful that all these reasons to get sober like aren't enough or aren't clear. And I was around that constantly. Like there's always this person's house I'd use with in Salt Lake, and him and his girlfriend were, on meth, on heroin, selling both of them. I'd hang out there a lot.
Yeah.
And they had like a 2-year-old that was like always around. And I always like in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, that's not great. But it's like,
It is what it is.
it is what it is. And it's like, they're awesome people, but they like didn't like they couldn't put it together. Right. And then there was one night when the 2-year-old was like in the bathroom and like picked up a needle, like a rig, and like stabbed his dad with it. And it was like this
Wow.
huge deal. And everyone's like, we need to get sober. And then like the next day it's like, well, like we'll get sober next week.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I just want to like impress that point that it's like easy to look from the outside and like judge upon that situation. But there's so many people I know that have every reason in the world to get sober and like can't like put that final piece in place,
It's never say never, because I look down at, when I wasn't pregnant, I was looking down, for the years that I was selling drugs, to pregnant women,
Yeah.
looking down on them, judging them, like,
Yeah.
Right.
say a bunch of stuff that I was thinking, but
Right.
but I didn't care, because all I wanted was their money. And
Right.
it's like,
Wow.
whatever, that's your shit.
Yeah.
I just want your money and sell my drugs and do my thing.
It's
And
been said that it's a lot
so-
of women, especially in Utah, that struggle with meth. Would you say that is true? Like the house mom? Have you heard stuff like that?
Oh,
like
yeah. Yeah.
Like the everyday
Yeah,
house
for
mom
sure.
ends
The
up.
soccer mom.
Yeah, the soccer
Yeah.
mom
So
gets
that
into
they
meth.
can,
Yeah.
they want to lose weight and they want to keep up because they have so many kids. And
Yeah. Is that
Yeah.
true? I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
more
I can't.
common than
I
you
can't.
think.
It probably
It's
is
not
a lot
just
more
like the
common.
trap house or the biker gangs. Like the first
I
time.
wasn't. I had a full-time job. I was successful. I was, I had 2 kids, and all this stuff happened, and then it slowly took everything away from me.
Right.
It wasn't that I started out like that. I mean,
It was like the
And
first
then all
time
of
I
a
ever
sudden-
smoked crack was in Hollywood with this like beautiful actress. And she wasn't like a huge actress. She'd have roles in like NCIS or like, little dramas and stuff. And she'd do gigs, but it's like, I was hanging out with her at a bar and we went outside and she's like, you want to hit this? I was like, what is it? She's like, crack. And I'm like, I had never smoked crack before. I'm like, God, or shouldn't we be doing this in some like grungy house like with a gang or bikers, but I'm with this like beautiful like successful actress and we're smoking crack, and it was like a shock to me that I'm like, I can't believe
Yeah.
you're involved in this, you know. And then it just becomes normal.
Hmm.
Oh, wow.
You'd be surprised at the people that I sold drugs to.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And so, I mean, and people, like when I got sober, there was a judge from Utah County that I met at an AA meeting
Oh,
that
really?
had got busted, and he was one of the worst to go in front of in Utah County because he, he was like, he wouldn't tolerate anything, and
Yeah.
and then he was all up in it,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and then he got caught. And
When I was in high school, this lawyer that helped me get off my charges for like possession and stuff, like got a DUI like a year later, you know.
Yeah.
It's like that guy helped me get off my charges.
yeah.
I want to go
it's
back
true.
if we can. I'm scared. I one of my good friends has been struggling with it, with meth, and I just the psychosis thing. Like that. I mean, that's how people end up becoming homeless.
Mhm.
I worked with a guy that his parents brought him in for the winter.
Mhm.
This was years ago. It was like 2011. They hired me to work with him. He was like 58. He was meth induced psychosis,
Mhm.
schizophrenic, nicest, coolest dude ever. In fact, anyway, it was interesting. I worked with him for 90 days, and then I ended up. That's scary.
Make sure to drink water.
But I ended up hiring him to be like the janitor.
Alexa, stop.
Yeah. But he ended up working for me as the janitor and cleaning the gym, and I paid him, and then I'd drive him back down here, and that's what happened to him. You know what I'm saying? And people don't, I don't know, like I don't know if he could get sober. My whole thing with him when I was working with him, I was like, dude, what about just smoking some pot?
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of my angle. Like let's not do meth, and
Let's just not do meth.
I mean,
yeah.
when someone gets to that point, do you think that they can get sober? I mean, there's all these stigmas, right?
Mhm.
I talked about it with my kids in my health class, and I was talking to them about what I asked them. I said, "What do you see when you see a homeless person? A bum, dirty, all these different things." And what I really see now from this disease is I see trauma, and I see mental illness.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Usually
Absolutely.
addiction, yeah.
Well, yeah,
wrapped
addiction,
up in
which,
all that,
which is
yeah.
wrapped up, but it's like
Mhm.
most people, the stigma is like they're just you're just a piece. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
I've shared this before. I used to, when I was first getting sober, I walk
Yeah.
around Temple Square,
Mhm.
and I got into the LDS church, and got into Christ, and there was this homeless lady right out Temple Square, and she older lady. But I was walking in one day, and this older lady's walking in Temple Square, and she says to the homeless lady, she says, "You need to go get a job." She said this right to this lady. And I
Yeah.
sat there and I thought, dude, you can't make that comment.
Right.
You don't know what type of trauma, if she's been sexually abused, if she's, you know what I'm saying? And so
Would you hire? Okay, at being that woman that's homeless living on the streets, would you hire me?
yeah,
Look at me.
Right.
Do you
Yeah.
want me to work for you
Yeah.
right now?
yeah,
How you wonder why I can't get a job? Look at me.
yeah.
I mean,
Right.
how help me, get me somewhere that can
Give me some tools.
That's why
give me
places like you
something.
went to, like that homeless women's shelter, are
Mhm.
so important because they'll
Yeah.
get you a bed, food, they'll
Uh-huh.
get you cleaned up, like
Yeah,
a
you learn
haircut, a shower, and
learn
then
how
it's
to
like,
live life.
yeah, here you go. Like now you have a
Yeah.
foundation.
You're put on a schedule, and this is when you get up, and this is what you do, and this is what and
Did you need to, like,
start normalizing
Pass drug tests in
Yes,
order to live there?
we had random drug tests, and I not only had random drug tests for the house, I would have random drug tests for my IOP.
Right.
Wow.
What does that look like? So like, your stepsister dropped you off there, you got clean, you got in that program. How did you turn that like one day or 1 week sober into 17 years sober, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a big question, but like what did that look like?
One step at a time.
Yeah.
Just that consistency. This is what time you get up. This is what chore you have to do. This is what time you go to bed. This is what time you bath your kid. I mean, and again, I knew all of this stuff, but I had gone so long just doing whenever, however, whatever, and keeping my kid alive that,
Wow.
it just, so I had to learn how
You
to
have to
normalize.
relearn it all.
Yeah, I had to learn how to normalize. And then, of course, I was in a women's and children's program. So it helped me with my parenting.
That's cool.
What a
But
beautiful program.
Yeah.
yeah, it was really awesome. And it, she was so little that there wasn't a lot that,
Right.
but I would imagine she'd been through hell, I mean, at 6 months, thank God she didn't remember any of that.
Right.
But
I really love these places that are like, I don't want to say like bottom of the barrel, but these like, recovery
Mhm.
houses and shelters that help
Uh-huh.
people like that, because you see people make the most amazing turnarounds, and like,
Yeah.
who's to say that the $100,000 treatment spa center is like more successful than this place, right?
Right.
Some of my
So-
favorite programs in
Yeah.
Orange County were like the Step House and like,
Yeah.
the Book House,
Yeah.
where it's like, you go in there with no money, you like, get a scholarship to go in, you pass a drug test, and you have to do these chores
Mhm.
and all this stuff.
Yep.
And I see the coolest people like make these most amazing transformations in getting
Right.
sober, right?
And so it's like where I'm at today, I was able to, I used the tools that I was given,
Right.
Right.
right? So I went to, I was on welfare, and I was, I used vocational rehab, and I had always had jobs in construction in the office, and I
Right.
always made really good money. And, but I was like, I can't go back to that. What am I going to do with my life? Because that's going to put me in the same situation around the same type
Right.
of people. So I did a bunch of tests through voc rehab, and I don't know, x-ray tech is something that came up, but there was such a wait list for an x-ray tech that I was like, well, what can I do? We have 6 months.
Right.
This is a time frame that you have to get your shit together,
Right.
and that we're going to pay for school. So what can you do? And I was like, I don't know. What tell me what I can. And they said, let's do medical assisting. So
Oh, wow.
I did a medical assisting for 6 months. I did my internship at 4th Street Clinic, which is a homeless clinic. And I stayed on there and volunteered. And then I interviewed at the University of Utah and in neurology, and got the job. And
That's
so
so
I
cool.
Jeez.
I helped them build their, work on their epilepsy program. And I was there for 15 years.
Wow.
And then, and I learned EEG in the middle of all of that. And so anyways, but so that's what I did. I mean, I just, and I would just tell myself, no matter what, I can't pick up and use, and, go to work every day, get up and go to work every day. That's just what you do.
Right.
And it just becomes a habit. And I just still continue to tell myself, get up and go to work. That's 8 hours of your day, and then come home and take care of the things that need to be taken care of.
Are you thankful for this?
I'm
Are you
so
thankful for
grateful.
this entire process? Like
Yeah.
even when you were
Mhm.
in the shit and all
Mhm.
those experiences.
Yep. I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for that man that picked me up and said, you look like you could use some help. And I wish I knew who he was.
Yeah.
I mean, I just
An
would like him
angel.
to see me now. And it's like it's funny. I actually run into my vocational rehab, the guy that helped me get into school and everything. I run
Right.
into him at different places all the time. And I'm like, look, and he's like, oh my gosh, and I'm like, I don't know I can't even thank you enough. Actually saw him at Donut Falls on a hike.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was like, oh my God, I can't thank you enough, and he's like, oh my gosh, look at you, look, you don't have to thank me. You did all the hard work.
That's so
Dude,
cool.
that
And
is
and
awesome.
it just makes me feel good, to see, you're right. I did do all that hard work. I did do all that hard work. All you did is sign a check and send me to school.
Yeah.
But but if I wouldn't have been given that chance,
Yeah.
right? I wouldn't be where I'm at.
It just makes me so happy because there's so many people like with what we're trying to do here. There's so many people that are like you that just need some like just some assistance that
Mhm. Yeah.
will go hard and try to put it together. You know what I'm saying? Where they needed
Yeah.
just some tools. They needed, and like,
and people to support you. I think that's the huge part, is to know that people care about you, and to know that they want you to do good,
yeah,
and that they're proud of you. I mean, like, it's still, I still sometimes when I look back at my life, wow, I mean, do these people realize that, you know, when I first got my medical assisting job, and I started working with neurosurgeons and neurologists, and, I was actually, seeing some of the patients and taking care of,
right.
stuff, and, helping them build this whole clinic, from the start.
Jeez.
And it's like, they were asking me questions like, that I was eating out of a dumpster
Yeah.
like 2 years ago, and high as a kite running
Yeah.
the streets and stealing, and,
Oh
you
wow.
know, whatever I could do just to live and stay high.
So we talk about in here,
And
like,
it's crazy.
it is crazy. Like we talk about in here, that it was a student to coach. So people
Mhm.
come into our program as struggling students, and we're called the School of Addiction Recovery, right?
Yeah.
So we look at it like, struggling students in the School of Addiction, which is life. For like, so like you had your time as a struggling student, and then now you've become into this coach and mentor, and people are asking you questions, and you've got this competency, and people
Mhm.
trust you. But I just wonder if you gain that competency back here from this and then changing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all of a sudden you have this bright light. I mean, I can tell that you would be a person who people would ask, I wonder if you would have that if you didn't have all those other experiences.
Mm-mm.
You know what
I
I'm
don't
saying?
think so. I don't think I definitely believe that I wouldn't be where I'm at if I wouldn't have gone through what I had gone through,
Yeah.
because I was living a I don't know, a mundane life with
Right.
with my kids, and
That's where you
and
learned
not
your
really
grit and like determination. And
yeah,
you
and
know,
I worked at a OC Tanner. That was
Right.
one of my first jobs, and my goal was to just move up in there. I was never going to leave that place. I was going to be there forever,
Right.
and that would have been my life. And when I look at it now, it's like, oh my gosh, I would have never met these people, and I would have never learned this or done that, or
Right.
had all the experiences that I had. I mean, I'm ashamed, and of some of the things, I mean, I may be smiling, but I'm not happy that I had an abortion. I'm embarrassed that I was married 4 times. I struggle every day with, am I a good mom? I have a daughter that committed suicide. I mean,
I see
I
people that let
struggle
that
with
hold
that.
them down though, where people get stuck in this cycle of like self-pity and shame and
Mhm.
regret, and it like doesn't allow them to push forward. And it's like you still have those things, but you learn how to deal with it and still move forward, which is such a cool thing, you know.
Yeah. And I guess I look at that as like, I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
God has me here, and I keep waking up every day. The sun keeps coming up, and so I'm going to make the best of that day.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the best that I can and try to be a better person today than I was yesterday. And I screw up all the time.
Yeah.
I make stupid decisions. I screw up all the time, and whatever.
Welcome
I
to the
just
club. Yeah.
I just deal with it. It's like, it's almost entertaining when I look at some of the shit, that
Yeah.
at myself. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, what were you thinking?
Uh,
But
yeah.
my baby just turned 18 yesterday.
Wow.
Wow.
And so it's like, I successfully raised a child
Wow.
on my own,
That's
by
so
myself.
cool.
I did it all by myself because I got remarried to an addict in recovery, and he
Right.
went back out and relapsed and got divorced and I lost everything and had to start all over again. It
Right.
was like me being back, thank God I didn't pick up a news. I
Right.
didn't have to. And that's the other thing. Recovery is not a part of my story, or relapse is not a part of my story. I've never relapsed.
That's amazing. Especially with, you said like one of your daughters like took her own life. I mean,
Mhm.
I can't even imagine getting through something like that
Yeah.
and having like the wherewithal to be able to stay sober. That's like
I
incredible.
checked out of life.
Yeah.
I didn't
I would
use
expect
drugs.
to,
I
yeah.
just checked out of life. I just, I just did what I have always done. I went to work and I came home. I went to work and I came home, and I didn't go anywhere other than straight to work and straight home to bed.
Was it
I
ever
was
an
so
option like in your
depressed.
mind?
It was it's always in my
Yeah,
mind.
right.
Every day it's in my mind. Wonder where I could go find Kimmy's dad. You know, I know where I mean, I don't want to. It's always there.
Wow.
You can always find it. You're gonna find.
It's
what you're
interesting when
looking
I
for.
always hear people say, like, this is just not an option at this point. Using is not an option. Or relapse, like, I'll lose my family, I'll lose this, and it's like, I like that mindset where it's like, you're so determined not to do it, but it's always an option.
It
It's
is.
always there.
And
So
that's what I've told myself.
give yourself
It's
credit for
it's
not
always
going down that
no
road.
matter what, it's always an option.
Yeah,
I could go get high at any time, but where is it going to take me?
right.
It's not. I'm not going to get anywhere, and then I'm going to lose the house that I bought.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose. I'm just going to lose everything.
Right.
And then where am I going to be homeless again? And I never want to go back to that. I mean, I have fear enough of not being able to make my house payment and lose I mean, I have all those fears. I'm anxious all the time, and
I think it's almost like a dangerous mindset for people to say, like, well, it's just not an option for me, or it's like I'm not going to go back to that, where they feel like they're safe and like they're past that almost, or it's like, I think it's healthy to realize that you could always go back to that. So what are you doing today, and what are you going to do tomorrow to make sure you're still living this healthy lifestyle in recovery, right? Because if you get too complacent or like feel safe from relapse, it's like could be just around the corner.
Right. So for it was 5 years on Wednesday that my daughter passed away. Right. And so for those 4.5 years, I did, I just survived. I don't know what to even call it, because I wasn't living. Right. I was miserable. I've lost a lot of weight since the first of the year. I've, become healthy. I'm eating healthy. I'm doing, all kinds of stuff, and which I was doing some of that stuff before, but I forgot what I was going to say.
You said like it's been 5 years, like this Wednesday, since that happened.
I was going to say you asked me how I knew LT and Jake. So I will tie that in right now. So I decided, I don't know, my daughter was on TikTok all the time, and I'm like, what the hell are you're always watching videos and shit. And so I got on TikTok and just was like, oh, hours, Jesus Christ, TikTok is dangerous. And laughing and oh my God. Anyways, but LT popped up, and I was, and like sober people would pop up on there, and I would make a comment like, oh, that's awesome, you have 6 months or whatever, and kind of trying to connect with people that I knew. And COVID had hit, so we couldn't go any, we weren't really doing anything. My life didn't change at all, but other people's lives changed. And so LT sent me a comment and said, oh, I have a YouTube channel, you should come check out my YouTube channel. And so I just got involved.
That's a cool story.
I just jumped in and met LT, and I was like, oh my God, he's in Ogden and I'm in Salt Lake. And we just kind of started talking, and I just dove into it.
I think that's why it's such a cool resource to like be doing what we're doing and have this, like online videos and podcasts we can do to be like show to people, and what LT's doing with the whole online community and presence. Cause it's hard to get out of your shell sometimes. And especially in an environment like we've been living in with COVID, and like a lot of meetings are shut down and you can't go out. It's like, you can still connect and find that unity and fellowship with other people that are sober and in recovery, but just online and through videos and chat rooms. Like it's awesome.
Now look, I have.
Hawk doesn't know it, but he's on TikTok too.
Yeah. We're on TikTok. I love
now
it.
you got us as friends. Like
exactly.
You need I really want you to come to our group and speak to our group.
That would be cool.
I would love to.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, you'd be great. And then you can come here anytime and work out. I'll teach you how to lift weights.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, have they kind of told you what we do here? Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. It's been, just all built by addicts. This whole this whole building was raised. Frank runs the program, and then so it's been sick. I'm a school teacher. I'm a physical education teacher.
Give yourself some credit.
And health teacher.
You're jack of all trades.
Yeah.
No, I like working with kids. I took that job like a year ago.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, dude, it's been fun.
But that's how you stay involved. That's how you stay sober.
Yeah.
You stay involved.
Yeah.
And that's, when I got sober, then I started doing meetings and got really involved with Crystal Meth Anonymous.
Oh, nice.
Super involved. And And I'm still, I mean, I don't know, I still do meetings with them and
That's
talk to
cool.
them, and I play softball in a clean and sober softball
Wow.
league. And I look at that and it's like, oh my God, it's so huge. There's I think 6 divisions.
Right.
So within each division there's like 8 teams.
Wow.
So on a team there's 10 to 15 people. Like how many sober people that is together on a Friday night.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a beautiful thing. We need to
It's
get a
so
sore softball
awesome.
team.
We do. Yeah. It's a huge thing. We'll start that
It's
next year.
fun. We just took 3rd place in the 1st division.
Really?
That's
So
awesome.
Last night.
How do
yeah.
you hit it? You swing it pretty good.
He used to be a baseball player.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
He
not-
was in the Astros organization.
When I hit, we win.
Yeah.
Exactly. You just got to get on base, right?
Yep.
What would you? How do you? Maybe we can kind of end with this and let this kind of just a hard to the. How do people get off meth? Like your idea. Like I need. I'm speaking to some families that might be watching that have sons. What would you say to them?
They have to hit a bottom. You have to stop enabling them, but show them that you love them, and they have to be willing. They have to be in the right mindset. There's really, but the main thing is, I like for myself. I can only speak for myself. I was put in a situation that I didn't have another choice.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, I mean, it's jails, institutions, or death, right?
Right.
I mean, so you have to start cutting them off. A funny story. I remember one time when I had gotten sober and I had called my dad and said, I need some money. And he said, well, I can give you some corn. And I'm like, I don't want corn. I
What am
need to
gonna do
ride
with
the
corn?
bus.
Yeah.
I need money for the bus. Nope, I'm not giving you cash, but I'll give you some food or,
Right.
and I'm like, I don't want your corn.
Right. So,
But
I think like reaching out for
it's-
help. Like, so if someone does decide
Mhm.
they want help, like if they reach out, being able to provide that to
Yep.
them
and
as a family member,
do
knowing
you-
where to
yeah.
direct them.
how
or-
do you get them out of that psychosis? Like
they have to stop using.
I know,
first.
like how can I? He he can't see the truth about anything,
No,
you know. And I guess it just goes back to humility. If you maybe it's true. If you don't capture humility, you can't get sober.
right. And
Right.
and you know, I looking at Kimmy's dad, I don't think some people will ever get sober. He doesn't want to get sober. He likes. I mean, he's in that psychosis. He's beyond. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked at detox for 3 years, and I just like you know, I have a whole new understanding of homeless
Yeah.
people, and you know, they have lives. They're people. They're fathers. They're mothers. They're, you know,
Right.
but some of those people only go to detox just to, it's like a vacation.
Yeah.
They're not done. They're not ready. I mean, they did that whole Operation Rio Grande, and there's funding for treatment, and it's all out there. And look at how many of the homeless people are still on the streets. You have to want it, and you have to fight for it.
I think for plenty of people that are that far along the line, like the best option most of the time is jail,
Mm-hmm.
where they get arrested for
Yep.
something and then they have to spend 3 months, 6 months, whatever in jail,
Mhm.
and then, you know, hopefully stay sober
At
at
that-
time, because you don't always stay sober in jail.
Right.
But it's like that might give a lot of people enough time or like a little bit of clarity to then when they get out, like they can get the help and people can
Yeah.
show them what to do, you know?
That's where I look at that. I think it's so important that and I don't know if there's programs or what, but I think not letting people just back into society. You know, I think that they should be rehabbed. You
Right.
know, I mean, I don't think you should just let them out at 3 o'clock in the morning to call
Right.
for someone to come pick them up, because
Yeah,
what
here's
do
a
you think?
payphone. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
what
gonna
do you-
call their dealer.
They're
yeah,
going to call their drug friends and their dealer or whatever. And I just think that people need that rehab.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there just needs to be, I mean, like prison, there's the halfway house. And I mean, and still those guys, you know, I mean, everyone relapses or slips or lapses or the
Right.
900 different things you
Yeah.
can call it, you
Right.
know, use again, drink again. But I think that they need that when they're sober
Yeah.
and they've had that time, not, you know, let's get caught again and let's just throw you in a rehab, you
Right.
know, because if you don't want it, you're not going to get it. And if you're only doing it for legal purposes, you're not going to stay sober either.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to get done with your rehab and go back to what you always did. That was my thought when I got sober. My thought was, I'm only staying here till I can get back on my feet and get a place to live, and then I'm on again. This is not how I want to.
Because what is it?
And it never happened.
It's because it's because
got
Yeah.
sober.
it's because early recovery is so monotonous and boring and
Mhm.
weird, and
Yep.
it's so, you see you got to go do this. And yeah, I mean, I remember when I couldn't even look at my bank statements, or I was scared to open the mail.
I still am.
Yeah, I don't open mail.
Yeah.
It's probably why my credit's so bad.
Yeah.
but you know what I'm saying? So it's like just getting people to face, and I don't know, I couldn't do it without God. So
Mhm.
how is that in your life? Like the whole spiritual side.
I have a relationship with God.
Yeah.
I mean, I again, I was angry, in that right after my daughter passed away. I was angry and I hated God and why and what, and but I have my own relationship with God.
Yeah.
It's not about going to church. It's
Right.
not about,
Right.
I have my own relationship, and
I
and it
bet you
helps
have
me
your own
stay
relationship.
sober.
I bet you have a great I would think you would have to with
Yeah.
with that journey you've been on.
Mhm.
That's
We're best friends, that's
Yeah.
for sure. We talk a lot.
I know.
And
me
it's
too.
not always nice talk.
Yeah, you
Oh,
have real
mhm.
conversations.
It doesn't matter. I
Go ahead.
So I ran into a friend of mine.
What do we got here? We got a
Oh,
box.
you got a
a
gift.
box of opportunity.
So yeah, I ran into a friend of mine that sells tires, and I had to get tires for my daughter's car last week,
Right.
and he's in recovery.
Oh,
And so he is amazing, and he has about the same time we got
right.
sober together,
Oh,
really.
wow.
And he came from Vegas, and he big dude. He's like 6 something. He's weighs I don't know what he weighs, but
It's big dude.
he's a huge dude. And when he was well, he's angry, very angry. Like he's the guy, the road rage guy that you cut him off and he'll follow you to a light to get out of the car, to rip you out of your car and
Oh,
beat the shit out of you, or follow you home and you cut me off, and that
Right,
guy, right? So he, had all these anger
and
issues.
he's sober?
And he's sober.
oh.
Yeah.
But no,
he has
but
17 years.
he chilled it out though, or no?
So he
Oh.
got a sponsor in Vegas, and they gave him this, and they called it a God bell.
Oh, wow.
And they said, you can pick whichever one you want. But they told him, they said, okay, we are all God's children, and you cannot hurt God's children. So we want you to put this in your vehicle. And when it rings, you need to remember to not hurt God's children and be kind. And so that's how it started. So when he came to Salt Lake, he brought these bells with the story, with his story. And so
Oh,
he
wow.
said, hang this from your rearview mirror, on your keychain, whatever. And he said, so if you feel like you're going to go to the drug dealer's house, it's going to ring and you're going to hear it. And he said, even whatever it was with the radio on, whatever he was doing, he could hear that bell, and it would remind him, well, I need to be kind and remember we're all God's children.
Dude, I love that.
That's so cool.
And so
I can have this?
you can have that.
I can have this.
He has a website. It's God Bells Foundation.
Oh, wow.
Anyways, but when I went and saw him, he gave me this box and said, oh, weren't you asking for some of these? So,
Yeah, thank you.
So anyways,
No, that is
That's
really
Yeah,
cool.
that's amazing.
that's the
I like
story
that.
of,
Dude, I
of
love
the bells.
I
No,
love
thank
rec-
you.
I
And
love
I don't need
I,
90 of them.
I love recovery because of that. Like
Oh, they're all different too.
Yeah. Pick whichever one you want.
I
Take
love
some
I
time.
love that people have to have a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I love
Yeah.
that. Like that. Like
That ties into what you were
Dude,
saying about having God in your life. I mean,
Yeah.
whether it's your relationship with your higher power, you call it whatever you want.
right. How do I need to act today that's in line with spiritual principles? That's a question I say to myself like
Mhm.
often. I'm like, dude,
Mhm.
getting ready to go home to see my wife and kids. I'm pissed off. I'm stressed. How do I need to act in here to just keep the
Mhm.
spirit in my heart?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to kick the dog? Because that's going to bug me too. Or am Am I going to be
You
patient?
gotta tie this to your keychain so
Yeah.
before you walk in the door, you hear it. Like, gotta be nice to God's children.
I got this dog that's old. It's like 14, and it's deaf and blind. So I get home and it just sits there and sticks its nose on my calf and just follows me around because I mean I give it hot dogs because it's like my thing is like, dude, it's only reward. You know what I mean? It's a little
Right.
drug addict. But it just it follows me all around the house, and I just want to. Sometimes I'm tripping over it. I'm like, I just want to lose my shit on this little dog, you know. But then I'm like, dude, it's a little old lady.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just chill out and be spiritual. Give her another hot dog.
Right.
You know? Like, dude, I love
that's
it.
funny.
Dude, I so appreciate. Like, I feel like you are so cool.
Yeah.
That was
Thank
like
you.
that was
Thank
a
you.
really special story, and I appreciate you having the courage to share it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for coming on
Thanks.
and
Thanks, you
sharing this
guys.
experience with us.
Thanks. so
Yeah,
much.
I want to have you on again, and then
Okay.
I'd love to have you come to our group.
Okay.
Like to
Okay.
come, maybe we can line that up. and
Yeah.
come.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah. So, well, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll be back at it on next Saturday.
Yeah. Next Saturday, those of you that are watching now, obviously we go live at 11, and then it'll be available the following Monday on, YouTube and Facebook and all your streaming platforms for podcasts as well. So
Thanks.
thanks
guys.
for tuning in.